So continuing with Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy, I had showed you the picture of troops going ashore from the landing craft. Very famous photo, shows up in textbooks a lot. Okay, I wish I had time. I can do 45 minutes to an hour on D-Day and the Normandy invasion. I've done it for a World War II class I was working for, but would not be appropriate for U.S. History Survey class. I'm already spending more time on this than most people. Okay? But if you're curious, I can recommend books or movies or whatever. Just ask me. So I'll just give you a few little shots here. Okay. Famous photo taken by Robert Capa, who was a news journalist for, I think it was for Time Life magazine. I mean, Time and Life are separate magazines. I think he shot for them, if I recall. But anyway, he shot lots of photos during the war. He went ashore with like the beginning forces. I think it was in the first wave at Omaha Beach, which was the worst place. Right? And this is a very famous photo. It shows it has a sense of action to it. It's like it's not focused. It's a little bit grainy, like the man was under pressure. So there's a story that goes with this. Capa went ashore, risked his life. He took about 120 pictures, okay, of the D-Day landing in the initial wave, and got back to a boat. Managed to get back, back on board. Sent the film ahead to England, rushed this. Okay. So the story is that, or the guess is, he took about 120 photos. What they think happened is that the guy in the developing lab was so anxious to see the photos is that he rushed the process and screwed up the developing. Now, you all use digital cameras, so you've never had to send your film into a developer, probably, most of you. But sometimes things can go wrong. Okay, so apparently the technician rushed the development process, melted the emulsion off the film, and ruined all the pictures but 12, about 10%. And they ended up grainy because of the improper processing. Okay, so Capa always insisted, no, they were focused when I took them. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. They were in focus. Of course, people were shooting at him, so he might have been a little distracted, but he always insisted that it was the film developer had messed up the film. And the fact that the other, over 100 photos didn't survive kind of backs up what Cap is saying. But boy, it's a dramatic photo, as there's people falling down and people running. I think there's one more here. Here's people trying to wade ashore in the surf. Okay, it's very nasty. Now it's weird. There's 5 beaches. In some places, the men just walk ashore and kind of go, that's it? Okay. The landings on Utah Beach went relatively smoothly. In fact, they missed the original target beach by a mile. But anyway, they walked ashore, didn't see really heavy opposition. Some of the British beaches were kind of intermingled. Intermediate. Some have more struggle than others. The worst place, the hardest beach, the place you did not want to be, was Omaha Beach, which is one of the American beaches. Okay? Now, if you've ever seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan which was a fictional story, okay, but the first 20 minutes took place on Omaha Beach. Okay, it's the worst of the worst, and it's the worst of the 5 beaches, and then the worst place on Omaha Beach was the Deerville Gap. Okay, seen here in this photo. That's where the guys in Saving Private Ryan were supposedly landing. There's a gap in the cliffs overlooking the beach, but you can get off of the beach, and the Germans had very heavy defenses there. And it was really a tough fight. And there's whole books written about this. And we just don't have time to spend 20, 30 minutes on this thing. Okay? All right. But fortunately for Eisenhower, the troops get ashore and are able to establish the beachhead and not, get pushed back into the ocean, which is, of course, what the Germans hoped to do. Okay? So What'll happen? Well, I should have got that other map in here. This is what happens when you're doing PowerPoints on the fly. Uh, get my pen here. Normandy kind of goes off this way, right? Then it comes back around, and then close enough. And so the Allies are kind of landing down here, more or less. You can look this up on a map if you want, or I'll have another map when I get back to the original PowerPoint. What's going to happen? The landing is in June, and now the Americans and British had spent so much planning on getting ashore that they didn't necessarily have a lot of deep, long-term plans on what to do once we got ashore. I'm not saying they hadn't thought about it; they had. But the initial struggle was to get ashore. Okay? What's going to happen, of course, is it turns into a race between the Germans and the Americans trying to get reinforcements into the Normandy area. Okay? The Germans are hampered by the fact that by this point of the war, the Allies had air superiority over France. Okay? The German Air Force was incapable of challenging the air over the beachheads. Okay? And the German Navy certainly can't challenge the English for possession of English Channel. So the Americans and British can continue to bring troops in. Okay, troops, supplies, trucks, tanks. They're having to do all this over the beaches until they can capture a port. So, of course, the Germans will hang on to the port cities for as long as they can. The Germans are trying to rush reinforcements into Normandy, but they're hampered by the American Air Force, okay, which if you try to move during the day, you're subject to attack by bombers and fighters, and bridges are being blown up. So both sides, it's really a race to see who can get more troops into the Normandy area quicker, and the Allies really have the upper hand on this. Now, just for grins, earlier I was talking about the logical place for an invasion, and I didn't have this map handy. God, I should have been better prepared. This is the Pas de Calais. It's the shortest or the skinniest part of English Channel. And this is where Hitler was pretty sure we would come, okay? Because you land here, it's a straight shot over into Germany. And you land here in Normandy, and you got to come and then pivot and then go this way, okay? And so even a few weeks after the invasion, Hitler was still holding troops in the Pas de Calais area because he was convinced Normandy was just a diversion, that the main thrust of the American effort would come at Calais. Of course, Operation Fortitude had done everything they could to convince Hitler of that fact. Okay, but anyway, so we land in June, and we're trapped in the beachhead. This goes on through June, and then through July, going into August, as the Americans and the British are trying to get enough manpower and firepower to break out of the beachhead. Okay, well, this takes a while. The terrain is advantageous to the defense for the Germans. We won't go into all that right now. Suffice to say, in August, the German defenses finally crack, okay, and the Allies come pouring out of the Normandy beachhead. They pivot. They head across France with this arrow this arrow I've showed you here. Okay, so after spending June, July, and half of August bottled up over here in Normandy, when we break out in September, going into October, November, man, we just tear through France. Okay, but we're starting to hit up here to the German border, and things are going to start bogging down. Okay, the supply lines are long. Everything's having to come in through ports or the beachheads. Okay, until we can capture some more ports up closer to Germany. There's a long supply line. Germans, on the other hand, as they fall back towards Germany, their supply lines are getting shorter. Okay. Also, German soldiers will probably fight harder to protect Germany than they did to try to defend France, because France is not home, right? Okay, France is someplace that they've taken. All right. But Germany, that's where the family lives, and so maybe the resistance gets a little more tenacious. Okay, and so the gist of all this is by going into the fall of 1944. This line here on the map, basically. Okay, we're starting to bog down on the approaches to Germany. Okay, all right. Our troops are spread thin because it's a wide front. There's a lot of ground to cover. And the Germans, as they fall back, are getting closer to their supply bases. And we kind of stall out on the borders going into Germany in late fall of 44. And then the weather's starting to get nasty and the days are getting short. And you start thinking, okay, could this thing go into the spring? I mean, it's always we'll have the war over by Christmas, but it's starting to look like it may not happen. Okay, and that's where we'll call this one. We'll call this one off and stop this video and get ready for another.